I call on the government order of the day.
Adjourn debate on the Prime Minister's statement.
Mr Speaker.
Dr. the Honourable Nick Smith.
Mr Speaker, I'm proud to be part of a government that's focused on the real issues affecting New Zealanders and the real progress that under Prime Minister John Key's leadership that we are making as a country. I'm sure every member in the House remembers that quote of President Bill Clinton, "It's the economy, stupid." And so it is for New Zealand in 2013. And after reflecting on the Prime Minister's excellent speech, I was interested to see, Mr Speaker, the latest copy, the February copy of The Economist. And I think we would all accept in this House it's one of the world's most respected magazines in terms of challenging us in government about providing good governance. And in that regular magazine, it's got an article titled "The Best Governed Countries in the World." And it proceeds and lists those countries that are top of the class. And Mr Speaker, I felt incredibly proud to be part of a country that is listed as the top of the class in terms of economic management. Mr Speaker, I want to point out that in that report it ranks New Zealand ahead of Australia, ahead of the UK, ahead of Canada, ahead of the United States. For Mr Peter's benefit, ahead of Singapore. In fact, it rates New Zealand as amongst the 5 top countries in terms of quality of governance and in terms of supporting economic growth, and for instance in terms of ease of doing business, it ranked New Zealand 3rd best in the world. And I say to members in this House, if we are genuinely concerned about jobs, about giving New Zealand the opportunities to go forward, we should be proud of being a country that is the 3rd best in the world to be able to set up new businesses, because it is only those new businesses that will enable us to create jobs. Mr Speaker, I think we'd all welcome as well the latest employment figures that show that New Zealand unemployment is not only better than so many developed countries around the world that are struggling, but also that those figures have come down. And I also say that we should welcome the whole range of initiatives that the Prime Minister mentioned in his statement that are going to make a contribution. Let me just reflect on my own Nelson constituency on what it means in my own area. Firstly, let's look at ultra-fast broadband. 4,500 additional homes and businesses, as a consequence of this government's program, will have access to ultra-fast broadband. Only in my caravan, Mr Speaker, at last Saturday in the market, met with a young business person, a mechanical engineer, who currently does not have access to broadband, who's looking forward to that rollout to create jobs and opportunities in our area. I look further at one of the biggest investments in science and research facilities in my home community. The Cawthron Institute, an institute that we're very proud of, is embarking this year on the biggest investment in labs and expansion in that organisation's 90-year history, and that's because of the sorts of partnerships the Cawthron Institute has with this government and its investment in research that's part of that jobs machine. Mr Speaker, I also want to note this month that the King Salmon Aquaculture Company is due to get a decision on the final result for its new aquaculture farms in Marlborough Sounds. Members opposite have vigorously opposed those new farms. They will provide an extra 130 jobs in the top of the South Island. And I say, don't give me the crocodile tears about unemployment when you oppose initiatives like those from King Salmon that will provide jobs for New Zealanders. And I particularly challenge the Green Party, who made a submission to the Board of Inquiry opposing any expansion of aquaculture in my part of the world, and I say that is one of the most job-rich opportunities that exists in the top of the South Island. I also want to actually congratulate my colleagues, both Hekia Parata and Paula Bennett, for what they're doing in social welfare and education. Members opposite last, let me tell them what it means for real people. In February, this month, Mr Cosgrove, a teen parent unit opened up in my electorate. Now, what do members opposite say about those teenagers' parents who have for years been ignored by ministers of education and welfare? Members on this side of the House know that teenage parents and their children are some of the most at-risk group of New Zealanders, and I'm proud to be part of a government that's actually investing in the facilities that will enable those teenage parents and their children to be able to get an education. And Mr Speaker, on the subject of jobs, I read the scoffing criticism from Labor members of the Prime Minister's initiative around the new cycleways. Let me say this to members opposite. And Phil Goff, let me tell you how many. I challenge Mr Goff to do this. Come on a bike ride. Yeah, let's just take a breath. Just take a breath, Mr Goff. I challenge Phil Goff to come to me with Brightwater. Come to me to Brightwater. Because right opposite the post office that Phil Goff and his government closed is a new restaurant and cafe. And I went down the cycleway weekend before last to check out the new cycleway. You know, Mr Speaker, I had to wait an hour and a half for a coffee because there was more than 100 people who had done the cycleway. And let me give you another example, Mr Goff, on the cycleway, is that a new business has opened up between my electorate and Damien O'Connor's. A new cycleway barge now operates between Rabbit Island and Mapua. And you know what my experience again was, Mr Speaker? I went to catch the ferry, the new cycle ferry, the new little business that started up as a consequence of John Key's initiative. It's a ferry that will take 50 bikes, and I couldn't get on it because there were that many people that were enjoying it. And Damien O'Connor is celebrating the success while his colleague, Phil Goff, criticises the Cycleway initiative. It's a positive initiative, and every New Zealander knows it, Mr Speaker. And then let's look at where the opposition's gone in my area of new responsibility in respect of housing. Now, first of all, we get this dream from Mr Shearer last year that they're going to build 100,000 homes at $300,000 each. And Mr Speaker, they specifically said, put the little brochure out, that they were 3-bedroom houses. How long did that policy commitment last? How long did it last? It wasn't a matter of a few days and Mr Shearer was backtracking on that promise. But Mr Speaker, I have to at least give the Greens credit for saying at least how their unaffordable housing policies would actually be funded. The Greens said they're going to rob the RAD Transport Fund to put up the billions of dollars for the new houses. My question for Labor members, 100,000 houses, $300,000 each, and there's not a member of this House that truly believes that can be delivered. But even so, where's the $30 billion coming from? Can you please tell us? Are you going to rake the debt up by another $30 billion? Are you going to join the printing press, as the Greens has promised? There is absolutely no credibility to that policy until Labor is prepared to say, where's the $30 billion coming from? And Mr Speaker, we on this side of the House are focused on housing affordability, but the real issues. There was a very substantive report produced by the Productivity Commission. The Productivity Commission was actually an initiative created by this government, and the foundations for improving housing affordability lie in that report's recommendations around what we need to do with land supply, what we need to do in terms of improving productivity with the sort of work that my colleague Stephen Joyce is doing in the area of skills training and apprenticeships, the sort of work that we need to do in terms of improving competition in building materials, the sort of work we need to do like Morris Williamson and the compliance costs. If New Zealanders are concerned about housing affordability, the substantive agenda that this government has set out gives New Zealanders the sort of hope and ambition that we all want and stand for in this government.
Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Bill Goff.
Mr. Speaker,